Welcome to the FHPS Board of Education Candidate Town Hall, brought to you by Forest Hills for Just Education. Please welcome to the podium, Executive Director of the Forest Hills for Just Education PAC, Stephanie Boone. Welcome to the podium, Executive Director of the Forest Hills.
You get the point.
It was really cool though.
It was cool. I had the YouTube live stream in the background and I forgot that.
That packs the punch, yes.
You want to start over? Go ahead and cut it and read it.
You want to? We can.
That makes Stephanie feel better.
Hi everyone, my name is Stephanie Boone and I am a lifelong resident of the Forest Hills community and a graduate of Forest Hills Northern High School. My husband and I have 6 children who have either attended or are currently attending Forest Hills Eastern schools. And on behalf of Forest Hills for Just Education and our team, we'd like to welcome everyone in attendance tonight, whether you're here in person or you're participating via live stream. It means that you are taking a vested interest in the future of our children. For those interested, the event is also being recorded and it will be posted to YouTube when it's all wrapped up here. Just a little bit of housekeeping. If you need the restrooms, they are directly across the hall just to your left. Also help yourself to water. There's a cooler in the back there. Just go get it if you need it. Due to the difficulty we had in finding a venue that could house us, we didn't want to limit the numbers for attendance tonight, so we had a little bit of trouble finding a venue that could house us all here. So it was short notice, and because of that, you'll see we just have a limited number of candidates here tonight. But we would like to extend a huge thank you to NODOS for having us tonight. This is a beautiful facility here, and we very much appreciate that. For a multitude of reasons, this has been an extremely heated election season, and we have an unbelievable turnout of candidates who have stepped up to run for a seat on the Forest Hills Board of Education. And they all deserve a round of applause right now for taking that step. Whether we agree or we disagree on the details, one thing is for sure: parents, grandparents, and stakeholders of the community are paying attention this year. And we wanted to give the community every opportunity possible to get to know the candidates before you take to the polls. The FHPS board consists of 7 members. Up for grabs this election cycle are 3 6-year seats and 1 2-year partial term seat. The current Board of Education member, Nicole Meloche-Gregory, is not seeking re-election. So that means that we will for sure be seeing at least 1 new face on the board come January. There are 3 candidates running for the 2-year partial term and 10 candidates vying for the 3 6-year terms. Although we extended an invitation to each of the 13 candidates running for the FHPS Board of Education to participate in this free, open, and public opportunity to introduce themselves to the Forest Hills Public Schools community, unfortunately, only 5 of the candidates made it a priority to be here tonight. We'd like to thank Brian Spratke, Robert Cribbs, Doug Lee, Kevin Donovan, and Holly DeBoer for being here tonight and taking time out of your pre-election schedules to be here. Additionally, we'd like to thank Mary Vong, Ed Abu-Fidel, CJ Mashad, Jackie Nickel, and Suzanne Callahan, as well as Jessica Johns, for taking us up on our offer to submit an introductory video of themselves. In lieu of being here tonight, we will play those in conjunction with the other candidates' introductory statements in just a couple minutes. Unfortunately, Mallory Neinmeyer and Justin Sheldon chose not to participate via any means this evening, and thus will not be represented this evening other than in the program that you have. At this time, I'd like to introduce you to Kathy Beatty, our moderator for the evening. Kathy has been moderating candidate forums for the past 15 years for every level of government. She moderates monthly Government Matter meetings for the Wyoming-Kentwood Chamber of Commerce, broadcast by WKTV. She is a court-appointed domestic mediator, moderator, corporate trainer on conflict in the workplace, and trained in restorative practices. She's the author of 11 books and multiple workbooks, including Troubleshooter 60, Peacekeeping Techniques for the Workplace, Suddenly Single Series, 30 Days of Healing After Divorce, and numerous others. Her programs include 4 Ways to Argue Effectively, Having the Time of Our Lives, How Do You Redesign Your Life, and numerous others. Kathy has 25 years experience in the corporate world in account management. She's a former board chair of Wyoming Kentwood Chamber of Commerce and is currently serving as a Plainfield Township trustee. Please welcome Kathy Beatty.
Thank you, Stephanie and Mike, and all of you. Thank you for joining us this evening for a very important opportunity to get to know who your candidates are. So we thank you for that. Are you able to hear me? No? Okay, I will have to.
That's better.
Thank you. I don't have that strong of a voice, so thank you for letting me know that. I certainly want you to hear me. So we're going to begin this evening with introductions. And as Stephanie had stated, we're going to have some recorded introductions. They were told to have a 3-minute introductions, as I will give to the candidates here. So we will go ahead and we will have those videos played, and then we will go ahead and ask our candidates who are with us this evening some very relevant questions. So we're going to begin this evening introduction by Susan Callahan.
Hi, my name is Suzanne Callahan, and thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Welcome to my office. You can see it's the evening, and this is when I do board business, so glad to have you here. I wanted to tell you a little bit about myself, some of the priorities I have for the district, and why I want to serve on the board. So a little bit about me. I have 3 children, started at Orchard View, and then they all proceeded then through Ada Vista, Northern Trails, Northern Hills Middle, Forest Hills Northern High School. Proud Husky family. We love the whole district, but yes, we have lots of Husky pride in this house. We actually live in the Eastern District, so I'm pretty familiar with people from across all the attendance areas through my kids' activities. I have served on the board since 2015. Prior to that, I was very involved in all of the PTO organizations, academic boosters, athletic boosters. Yes, I worked in the concession stands. I've done hot dogs in the whole 9 yards. So very active parent volunteer. And in fact, I started serving on the board. Mary Vonk approached me. We were Ada Vista parents together and asked if I'd be willing to serve, and said sure, and here we are. A little bit about some of the priorities and some of the challenges. You know, I think one of the things that is striking me right now is communication and trust seems to be a really big issue. And when you talk about it on a one-on-one basis, people love their kids' teachers. The kids are having a great time. You talk to people. I've been having informal conversations with all the board candidates. I went to Panera with Robert Cribbs. I work with Ed Abu-Fidel's wife. I've been talking to Jessica Johns. I am obviously with CJ all the time. We're communicating with each other. And when I talk to people, we really need to understand that this is a time to trust that people's intentions are good and that we want good things in our community. There have been a lot of things going on in the world out there that I think aren't necessarily happening here in our schools, and maybe it's the weakness of the district, which is lack of district level communication, that's allowed people to fill in some of the gaps. Everything I do all day is about learning. I spend my days with businesses who are very focused on hiring, attracting, hiring, retaining great employees. And they see our schools as a pipeline to that. They want them to be highly skilled, highly educated, and they're willing to help support that in the K-12 area as well as advanced degrees and things like that. We are working through a strategic planning process now, and I see great potential for collaborations with industry partners. Here's what I bring that's unique at this point. I am pretty informal. I am eager, I'm innovative, I am ready to roll up my sleeves and get involved in things. I will be able to welcome in our new board members. We're going to have new board members, help them adjust into the board governance piece of this and understand the role of board members, and then also come right alongside in the strategic planning process that we have going on right now. I really, really, really don't want to lose momentum on this, and I think that it's important that I am here to continue that work.
The next candidate that we will hear from is Ed Abu-Fadel.
Hello, my name is Ed Abu-Fadel. I'm a candidate for the 2-year term in the 2022 Forest Hills School Board election. Let me start and thank Forest Hills for Just Education for the invitation to this town hall. My wife and I are traveling today, or otherwise I'd be at Noto's this evening. As a substitute, I was invited by the Just folks to provide this short video. So a few words about who I am and the themes of my campaign. I'm a product of public education, elementary school in Chicagoland, then middle and high school in Indiana. I earned my bachelor's degree from Michigan State University and my doctorate in mathematics from Rutgers in New Jersey. I started teaching mathematics at Grand Valley State University in 1995. And about 7 years ago, I moved into administration. During my career, I've been awarded GVSU's Outstanding Teacher Award. I served as the department chair for 7 years. My family and I moved to Forest Hills in 2006 because of the Forest Hills schools. We followed my sister-in-law and her family, who moved here a few years earlier for the Spanish immersion program. My wife, Kathy, and I have one son, Zachary, and he graduated from Forest Hills Central in 2017. He played on the hockey team. Throughout this campaign, I've talked about excellent schools and welcoming schools. As you can see in this chart from the recent school board meeting, our schools continue to be excellent. We are one of the premier districts in the state. We have a strong record for college-bound students. In addition, I've discussed the need to elevate the visibility and value of other paths, such as vocational education. I've also agreed with others that there is more work to do, and through the campaign, I've discussed maintaining a focus on growth and abundance and not stagnation. One initiative that I believe the district should embrace is the plan for the region to grow as a hub for technology. The question we should be asking is, how will Forest Hills fit into this plan? Our schools should also be welcoming, by which I mean that students, teachers, and staff, and parents should have the freedom to be who they are. That covers a lot of ground, from ethnicity to gender to religion and political passions to sexual identity. And that can be tricky, as being who you are can lead to conflict. But we are the adults in the room, and we must find a path together to public schools that are a place for all. I want to say a few words about books. Our kids don't read enough as it is, so we should not create new barriers to literacy. Rather, we should be celebrating reading. Discussions of age appropriateness may be necessary at times, but pulling a book out of a library is an extraordinary decision and should be done with care. If a parent seeks to remove a book from a district library by following the district's policy, as a board member, I would take that request seriously and do my homework before making a judgment. There are so many more topics we could talk about. I want to recognize a few of them. Supporting our teachers and staff, ensuring safe schools, and strengthening communication between the district and the community. But most of all, our schools should remain a place for our kids to be inspired to thrive. If you're interested in learning more about my campaign, I've written statements and videos on my campaign website, ed4ed.com. You can also read about endorsements I have received. Thanks for listening and voting. Have a good day.
Our next candidate is CJ Mashad.
Hi there, this is CJ Mashad. Oh, sorry, I'll try to lean forward so you don't have to stare at my glasses the whole time. Sorry I can't be there in person tonight. I would be if I didn't have a really good reason, and I think this is one. I'm actually at Forest Hills Eastern tonight in rehearsal for Shrek the Musical, which is Forest Hills Northern's show this fall. I've been so fortunate to connect my love of music and art with the kids in Forest Hills for more than 15 years now, playing in dozens of pit orchestras. So I'm with the rest of our band kids getting ready for this show. If you don't know who I am, I've lived here my whole life. I grew up in Forest Hills. I went to Meadowbrook Elementary and went through the Forest Hills Northern system. I went on to Grand Valley and then received my doctorate in pharmacy from Ferris, and have spent much of my clinical pharmacy career in the cardiothoracic intensive care unit at Spectrum. And I now own my own clinical pharmacy consulting company. As you may have heard as well, I do have 4 little kids. My oldest is 8, my youngest is 2. So I will have kids in Forest Hills for the next 17 years. So it's a very vested personal interest in the quality education that Forest Hills can provide, and a real desire to make it better and to make it as good as it can possibly be. My other reason for joining the board really is just my passion for this place. This is my home. It's where I grew up. It's where I learned life lessons and made a lot of mistakes. And some of my great mentors are still teaching here. Some have become my lifelong friends. And I really just want my kids and all of our graduates to feel this way about their home, to know that they got the best, to really consider coming back here and raising their own families here because it's just that good. Now, that said, there's obviously a new tension that is in our district right now, in our community, in a lot of communities, and that's not bad. A lot of growth comes from tension. I believe that, but it is new, and there's a new level of engagement, a new desire for information, a new desire for communication that I think are healthy and good, and may require updating some of the ways our district operates. So I wanted to come in to try to provide that, somebody with a lot of history and understanding of our culture, in Forest Hills, but also as a younger parent with an eye toward the future, and to try and be a bridge for some of these gaps that we've identified, and ultimately just help continue the great tradition that is Forest Hills. So the 6 months I've been on the board so far have only deepened this passion, and I really hope to continue serving for 6 more, or maybe even beyond that. So I'm again sorry I can't be there live. I'm so willing to answer the questions if anyone has any. Some of the questions from tonight or others. You'll always get honest and transparent conversation from me. I'm not politics, no reverse psychology. I'm pretty simple and pretty straightforward. So please feel free to message me with any specific questions, and I'll be happy to answer them. So I hope the night is successful. Thank you again to the group for setting it up. Of course, I would love your vote in a couple of weeks, but more than that, I would love to see us band together behind whoever it is that serves on the board in 2023 to help them, help the superintendent, help the district, move forward and keep pursuing what's best for all of our kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate is Mary Vonk.
Hello, I'm Mary Vonk, and I'm running for the Forest Hills Public Schools Board of Education to fill the 2-year term. I'm actually running for re-election as our community first elected me in 2004, and I am running to support our relatively inexperienced board. In January, our current board could have a combined tenure of 8 years. 2 years ago, the combined tenure of our board was 65 years. Experience is important, especially as we face challenges we haven't faced before. A big one right now is that teachers and administrators are leaving the profession. We need to be prepared to retain the incredibly talented staff we already have and to attract and hire incredibly talented staff in the future. I was part of the team that selected and hired our current superintendent in 2006, and I have served on a number of committees that interviewed and hired current administrators. This experience will serve us well as we secure the talent we need to ensure that Forest Hills continues to be the successful teaching and learning institution it has always been. What challenges face the district and the board? Their first one is the need to prepare our students to thrive in a constantly changing world. Thriving is not all about academics. We need to ensure the safety and well-being of every student in our Forest Hills community. How do we do this? Our very generous community recently passed a bond issue allowing us to build safe spaces where rigorous teaching and learning can take place, where our kids can discover their passions and develop their talents, all while acquiring the 21st century skills employers are currently demanding of our graduates: communication, collaboration, creative problem solving. A more pressing challenge at this time in history and in this election is the need to ensure that we elect board members with the right motivations. There is no room in board service for personal agendas. There is no room at the board table for political affiliations. The only platform of value is the need to constantly strive to do what's best for our kids. There are very real tenets to effective board service, namely governance and accountability. I am happy to support our board as we support the teachers in doing what's best for kids in executing our district vision of all learners achieving their individual potential. How do we go about being responsive and accountable to our community? We need to constantly make community a priority. This board has currently made that a priority and continues to work on the development of an incredibly effective communications team. Personally, I had an incredibly unique and invaluable experience during the pandemic. At that time, I was president, and part of my responsibility was to handle communication, work with the board, and field questions and concerns. There was so much, and it was so significant that I was compelled to open discussions that have ultimately led to discussion groups that need to serve as the model as what we do together in future to go forward for our kids.
Thank you. Our next candidate is Jessica Johns.
Hello. I want to just take a minute and introduce myself. My name's Jessica Johns. I am mother of 3 boys, one who's a sophomore in college at Taylor University, one who's a junior at Forest Hills Eastern, and I also have an 8th grader at Forest Hills Eastern. My priorities for our children are to make sure that they are safe, to make sure that they have high quality instruction, to make sure that we are fully staffed with our instructors, to make sure that our administrators are working effectively with our teaching staff, with our parents, and with our students. I want to make sure that each of our kids feel like they are welcome in our school buildings, that they feel like they're each valued for each individual skills that they offer, and that the parents feel like they are well communicated with between the staff, between the administration, and between the board. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me. My name is Jessica Johns. My webpage is votejessicajohns.com. I also have a Facebook page. Please find me and connect with me. I'd love to hear from you. Bye.
And our final candidate on video is Jackie Nickel.
I'm Jackie Nickel, and I'm the proud mom of 3 Forest Hills grads. My sons graduated in 2017 and 2019. We had a terrific experience at Forest Hills Schools with so many terrific teachers who really cared about our sons and co-curricular programs like sports and music that helped shape them into the young men that they are today. I'm a business person with a passion for education. I'm a former business executive, having worked at large global companies, and currently I'm a small business owner in the community with my husband of 27 years. I bring experience in education. I served on the board of an early learning nonprofit for 6 years, with 3 of those years as its board president. And currently I teach business at Hope College, so I know what it takes to be successful in college. My vision for Forest Hills Schools is that all students have safe access to the highest quality education so they can fulfill their true potential, whatever that may be for them. My priorities are in age-appropriate curriculum and materials that focus on the fundamentals, things like math, science, reading, writing, and that build 21st century skills like communication and creativity. I want transparency and easy access to curriculum and board decisions. And I want timely and effective communication with parents, teachers, and other stakeholders. Parents and the community need board members who are going to listen to their concerns and are going to respond. Our students need board members who are going to focus on excellence in education and stand against ideology that divides. And our community needs board members who are able to work effectively with others, even if they're working with people whose ideas are different than their own. I've spent my entire career building a reputation as a business person and a leader who can make level-headed decisions and get things done. I care very deeply about our community and the success of our students. And as you make this important decision, I hope you'll consider me, and I hope that you feel that I've earned your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates, for submitting that video. And now we're going to hear from those candidates who are present with us. They have drawn a number, and there is a reason why they are sitting in the seats that they are. And our first candidate, if you would give us a 3-minute opening, and we do have a timer down here who is going to let them know at 2 minutes where they're at. So we will cut them off and stop them when 3 minutes happens. So with that, go ahead if you would, please. Ellie DeVore.
Mike.
When Kathy had me on number, I said, please don't give me one. So, I'm Holly DeVore. I have been a resident in Forest Hills for 26 years. And through that, we have had 3 kids come through and graduate from Forest Hills Eastern. Also was a proud mama of some foreign exchange students that came through the program as well, so we got a chance to see what it was like to have students, you know, kind of go through some different programs and such. I have been a part of being on PTO, president with my husband. I have been also working with students as far as being an aide in school, an inclusion aide, overload aide, recess aide, and such with the kids. Sorry, Tom said it again. Anyway, and I have also worked with students now in the business that I own that are coming to me, former students that I've mentored and stuff, and they're coming to me for work and stuff in our community. So one of the reasons that I'm running for Board of Education is I sat at some of the meetings this last year and listened to stories over and over again from our community, and it seemed like it was falling on deaf ears. And so the following month I would go and listen to the same stories again, and nothing had been done. And they were things that, as a mom and even now as a grandma with kids coming up in the system, that I felt that I wanted to ensure that if somebody was able to do something and we were empowered to do something about it, that we would be able to. And I went through and started talking to former colleagues through the school system, retired teachers, and started listening to some of the things that were happening behind the scenes. And yes, we are in a phase right now of the whole world seems to have some things that are going on inside and outside the systems and happening all across of every school district. It seems like in the United States it's hitting it all at once. And it just seemed like parents are crying out and nothing is being done about it. And so I wanted to make sure that I was able to, instead of talking and complaining about it, that I was actually doing something about it. And I think a lot of it is just answering some questions and finding solutions together and working together. Like they said, there is going to be a new board in place. That I'm the type of person that I feel like I would rather listen to both sides so we can work together and solve the problem uniquely and correctly for our community members.
Thank you. Our next candidate is Doug Lee.
Hi, I'm Doug Lee. My wife had decided to move us into Forest Hills in 1996 because of the schools. I have 4 children, all have graduated here. My last one graduated in 2016. I'm also a local business person that puts community first. I own the Jam Bean Coffee Company. I also am the CEO of a 35-year-old tech company that I started out of college. So I have the business experience. One of my customers came to me back in 21 and said, you need to go to a school board meeting. I've never been to a school board meeting, even when my 4 kids were here. It was a bus garage, it was a packed garage, and parents were begging the superintendent of the school board not to mandate masks for our kids. That happened anyhow, despite the parents' concerns. The second meeting I went to, I started hearing a little different story. I started hearing the board not responding at all to people. I heard parents cry out, and it was on deaf ears. In May of 21, the group of parents of the organization I belong to decided to ask the superintendent, Dan Beam, was CRT being taught in Forest Hills? Dan said, no, it's not, I don't even know what it is, but I'll get back with you. That next month, that same group did a FOIA request, Freedom of Information request, for the word CRT over a period of 1 year. Came back 409,000 documents. The district wanted to charge $1 a document to receive those, or $409,000. So for them denying it being taught in our schools, we found 400,000 documents, from which many of those are on our website that we've scanned in. The group actually raised about $2,900 and got 2,900 documents that pretty much show you exactly what's happening in Forest Hills. It's an ideology, but it's taught through a program called SEL. Everybody in this district and schools across the country use abbreviation to confuse everybody. It's called SEL, Social Emotional Learning. It teaches the ideology of CRT, which is critical race theory, and it's dividing our country. There's a reason across the country, no matter where you go, you have school board members, which I never even knew before 2020 who they were. Now have become the forefront of the election process across the United States and defining elections and governors in the state. What happened and how this happened is COVID came along. So there's a silver lining of COVID. COVID allowed the video into the classroom for the very first time so parents could see firsthand of what's being taught in our schools. And when that happened, that's where the uprising started. I have been to every school board meeting since then. I've spoken at every single one of them. I have watched 7 members of the board completely ignore parents, ignore me, will never answer a question. I've never seen one avenue of disagreement on anything.
Time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sorry.
Our next candidate is Kevin Donovan.
Thank you, thank you, Kathy. I'm Kevin Donovan, and I want to be your next board member. I want to start off by thanking our hosts, Forest Hills for Just Education. I want to thank Nodos, and Kathy, thank you for hosting tonight, or being our moderator. I appreciate that. I grew up in a combination between Texas and Pennsylvania. I graduated from Texas A&M with a degree in construction science. I'm a builder, a contractor, general contractor, construction manager, whatever you want to call me. I've worked for some of the largest construction companies in the world. Built some of the biggest and most iconic projects around the globe. I've been on projects from Macau to Singapore to Las Vegas to Tulsa to right here in Michigan. I've been a resident of Forest Hills for 8 years, just coming up on 8 years here in November. I have 4 kids, a junior and a freshman in college, and a junior and a freshman in Eastern High School. Why am I here? I'm here because you've kind of heard a theme tonight about not being heard as a parent. I have dozens of stories from my own kids. I've gone to board meetings myself for my own personal interests and reasons of things that my children have gone through in school. I've come home from work and had them crying over things that have happened to them in the classroom, maybe by a teacher or through the administration. I've tried to navigate the system, follow the rule book, go through the chain of command, and deaf ears is what the system is currently today. I have personally had enough. I've got tons of business experience. I've been on projects that are as large as $2 billion of construction. I know what budgets look like. I know how to manage budgets. I know how to be a steward of other people's money. And that's what I've done for my whole career. So I'm bringing that to the table. But more importantly, I'm bringing the voice. And the voice is that of the parents. No parent will ever come to a board meeting that I'm presiding over and leave feeling like they've left unheard. My goal is to challenge the administration and challenge the staff and the teachers to be there for the parents, to answer the parents, and bring clarity and transparency to what's going on to make our system better. We don't have to have all the divisiveness that exists. Go on Facebook and look at these posts that are going around. Look at the signs that are either being taken down, trampled down, spray painted. It's disgusting. This isn't what I want Forest Hills to be. I want us to be a collective community. And I think it takes good leadership to do that. I've spent my career building a reputation based on integrity, and that's what I intend to bring, and I look forward to receiving your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Robert Ribbs. Cribs for you.
So, Chris for Kids. So good evening and thank you very much. I appreciate you being here. Thank you for NOTOs, and please make sure when you have that extra time to have a little dinner to come to NOTOs and help support them. I'm running for school board kind of a different way. It was back in September. I was with some friends, my wife and I, and they were talking about Forest Hills and that they're taking their son is taking their kid out of Forest Hills to a private school. And my wife said, well, why are you doing that? She said, well, haven't you seen what's going on at Forest Hills? It's not Forest Hills that you may remember. So we went to their first meeting actually in October of 2021. And we walked in the meeting and there was a group of people on one side wearing black shirts, kindness, love, inclusion, and then was the other side. So we sat down and we listened. And yes, we were very, very surprised. We heard people come up and talk about restroom policies, what's going on, boys going in the girls' restroom, transportation, how come we can't get bus service to our schools. It was a list of on and on of these issues. So I left, saying, okay, that's a problem. We went to the next two. The same exact conversations were being brought up. What about the books? They're reading these horrible, horrible lines out of books. Why can't I get my kid to school because there's no buses? What is going on? And then finally in February is where I made the change, because we went to the meeting and here's the same group wearing their black shirts, love, inclusions and all that, all masked up, all have these pink signs or red signs, and anytime somebody gave a speech to talk about it, liars, fact check, all that kind of stuff, and I thought, this is appalling. So I talked to my wife about it. I said, I want to go ahead and run for school board. I got involved first. I have gone to every school board meeting, including curriculum and also finance. In the afternoons, I've visited with school board members. I've been with the superintendent. I got involved with transportation. I visited with the bus drivers. I talked to the bus drivers. I knew what the problems was. I did a letter to the team saying, here's your issues on the buses. You can fix it. They did do one thing going with $17.75 an hour to $21 an hour, but that wasn't all the problems. I told them you're going to have more problems. You're not going to keep the drivers. Well, guess what? I think the drivers are going to be gone. I think they're leaving now. And there's going to be routes that are not going to be full. So my whole idea and what I want to do is get on the board, sit on the board, work with the people. I'm going to be very demanding. I want the kids to have a great education. I don't want all this stuff about wearing ears or, hey, gay pride here, that's not for schools. Teachers want to teach. I meet with teachers. All they want to do is teach.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our final candidate this evening, Brian Spratke.
All right, I want to start and ask, why are each of you here today? Are you here to support a candidate, group of candidates? Are you here to learn about how each of us feel about CRT or books in the schools? I hope you're here to research who can be a leader for our schools, who can make unbiased decisions about what is best for your family, as well as the family of the person sitting next to you or your neighbor next door. As you listen to us talk tonight, think about who would be willing to work through these disagreements. Be professional, be honest, and truly listen to concerns, and find ways to improve communication. I'm a parent with 3 kids in the district. I cover 3 buildings, different ages. I'm engaged in many aspects of school, academics, sports, music. I'm actively involved with youth outside of school through Boy Scouts. I spend nearly every day in the district engaged with families throughout Forest Hills.
Thank you, candidates, very much. And now we're going to proceed into the direct questions. I'm going to begin this first question with candidate Holly DeVore, and then I'm going to give her 1 minute to respond, and then every other candidate will also have 1 minute to respond. The question, candidate DeVore, what is the role for schools in dealing with the mental health crisis?
I'm spending a lot of time in this subject matter of lately, and trying to uncover what actually happened to our students, starting to see this mental health thing on the rise. And from the beginning of masking our children, created trauma in them, which is starting to push the mental health issue on the rise, and people are starting to see different things coming from their students. This ideology that is being pressed inside of our school systems as well too, with the gender dysphoria that is coming through and pushing that on our kids is causing some issues as well. And in this, I'm finding that we are barking up the wrong tree on certain things. I think some of the things that the kids are facing with the mental health issues, a lot of it stems from what's happening in their home. If they've got some issues that are going on, if we take a look at what happened during COVID, for instance, our family also faced some issues at home too that we didn't even know how to function correctly. I think trauma just kind of hit all over.
Time, thank you. Candidate Doug Lee, please.
So mental health issues caused by conflict. Kids are in conflict with their parents. The schools are hiring counselors. Now, when I went to school, we had guidance counselors that get us through college to prepare us for life. We don't talk about guidance counselors, we talk about mental health counselors. Mental health counselor is something that a parent needs to be involved in, and not independent of the school, and certainly not secretive of the parent. We have hired many counselors. We've given federal funding so that parents are no longer involved in the mental health issues. These conflicts arise because the kids are in conflict with what the upbringing of the parents are. Critical race theory teaches that these kids, that there's two ways. You're either the oppressor or the oppressed. It's conflict. It's not how our kids were raised. It's not how my kids were Forest Hills. It was not how, when we moved here, it happened. But it did happen. And we have to reverse those. And those are causing serious problems. But ultimately, the parent has to be involved in the solving of the mental health issue. That's not a public school responsibility. It's in conjunction.
Thank you, candidate. Kevin Donovan, what is the role for schools in dealing with mental health crisis?
Okay, the audience on TV or whatever, y'all can play along too. How many remember what it was like to be 15? Okay? It's tough. It's tough enough to be 15. Puberty, friends, all the drama, whatever goes on. It's not easy being a kid. I've got 4 teenagers, and it's not easy, trust me. They remind me all the time. At the end of the day, because it's not easy, you have, today it's coined mental health crisis, right? That's the new phraseology behind it. And it's good that we've labeled it something so that we know exactly what it is. So the question now becomes of how do we solve it? That's a great question. Is it the school's responsibility? Is it the parents' responsibility? Is it the community's responsibility? Well, look, everyone talked about how Forest Hills, we all want to be this great school district, but #1 in the state. That's one of my goals. That puts a lot of pressure on these kids. So it takes a group effort to solve this mental health crisis. Some of it's the school's responsibility, having the right programs for kids, to have outlets for all the tension.
Thank you. Robert.
I'm really doing good.
That is a tough question. I coach basketball at Forest Hills, and I've been doing that for 4 years, boys and girls. So I have seen a major change. Before the pandemic, when I was coaching, they were much more open, they listened better, they gel better. Going through the pandemic and coming out of it, I coached right when you still had to wear masks, and it was a horrible experience seeing these boys running around wearing masks trying to play basketball. One thing about the kids, the resiliency that they had. I also officiate the YMCA, and at the beginning of the season, I was going girls. They weren't fluent together, they didn't really work together. However, being in activities, they came around. By the end of the season, the girls high-fived. You would think, wow, we really improved the situation. I think a lot of the mental health can be taken care of the same way. If you have those certain students that are really having trouble, then you can arrange to have a parent involved.
Brett, 1 minute is just not enough time.
Mental health should be part of schools. Our kids have gone through a lot the last couple of years. We need to make sure we have the counselors that are there, that the counselors' time is allocated to helping the kids. How much time our counselors spend with college prep and all that stuff. It's not the same as when I was there. go to the counselor's office and you could talk to the counselor. Now, if you go there, you're going to talk to them about college prep and college prep and college prep at Forest Hills. It's important, but it shouldn't be the only thing we talk about. We also have a lot of other resources in the district. Throughout Grand Rapids, we have lots of mental health, lots of hospitals and all these things. We have resources in the school. A lot of those resources aren't made public. We don't know how easy it is to get a hold of those, and so we need to be better at communicating which programs and which resources we have available in the schools.
Thank you. The next question will be directed first to candidate Doug Lee. It's a little lengthy, so bear with me, and I probably won't be repeating this. According to Education Week of October 2022, 2 decades of progress nearly gone. National math and reading scores hit historic lows. Students who tested in spring of 2022 show the biggest drop in math performance in 4th and 8th grades since national testing began. A third of the students in both grades cannot read at even the basic achievement level, the lowest level on the test. How do we bring students up to academic levels that have been lost during COVID? Doug Lee, please.
Well, one of the things that is a symptom of this is certainly the record number of people who homeschool their kids or decide to send their kids somewhere other than public schools, because one of the things within public schools is they've got out of the business of education. And academics seems to fall second to some of the other agendas that the National Teachers Association, the MEA, and the National School Board Association tend to want to promote. They're not about educating. That's one of the things that we need to do within the schools is bring neutrality back and put education first. And doing that is going to be a tough thing to do because you have a lot of these other forces going against you that are working against this. So absolutely, Forest Hills has a 5-year decline in math and science amongst 11th graders. So every year we continue to decrease on our testing scores. We also there's a 10-year decrease every year. We lose student enrollment because parents are pulling them out.
Time, thank you. Kevin Donovan, please.
To me, the answer to this question, which is how do we bring students back up or get test scores back up, it's how we prioritize funding. And to me, the way you prioritize funding is in the classroom. You start funding in the classroom, and if there's money left over, you can do other things. But we have to give the students what they need and go back to the core basics of education: math, science, reading, writing. It's really simple. Stick to the basics. And then help those kids by helping fund maybe after-school tutoring, mentoring, any programs that help bring those students back up and get them focused on reading, writing, math, and science.
Thank you. Robert Cribbs.
The answer is pretty much effective. The same thing too about improving education. Have the teachers be able to have the resources, not have to maybe doing software programs, but maybe books. Books are more focused. All the kids are in front of computers all day long, then they go home and play on computers. I really feel that if you get them with books and get them to sit down and work with the teacher and tell the teacher that we're concentrating on math, we're concentrating on the history of the United States, we're concentrating on science. If we start doing that and the teachers know that all the other side noise, what I'm talking about, the transgender and all that, keep that separate while you're in the classroom. Concentrate on those areas. Also get AP back up. And the ones that are struggling, that's when we're talking about. Have tutors, have help. Teachers want to help. They will help if they have the opportunity.
Thank you. Brian Spratke.
Interesting enough, this was covered in the board meeting a couple weeks ago that Forest Hills, when compared against itself pre-pandemic, is actually as good or better academically than it was. Tests have gone down from 5 years ago, yes, because the testing changed. They changed how we did it, and continuously across the last 5 or 6 years, we test at or above our comparative districts. Can we be better? Yes. Should we be better? Yes. But to say that Forest Hills hasn't met that gap, I don't believe that.
Thank you. Holly DeBoer, please.
I feel like it's helping the teachers. They got into this profession to begin with because they were passionate about teaching, about encouraging students. I know for me personally, I had a teacher in at Anoka Senior High in Minnesota that was, I wanted to be like him. I wanted to be a soccer coach and I wanted to be a teacher because he was very passionate about what he was doing. And I think right now what we have is we have a lot of chaos in the classroom that are tying the teachers' hands for doing what they really need to do. And that's to be passionate about what they got into this field for in the first place. And I feel like if we can kind of weed out this ideology, this rhetoric, this chaos that's causing in there, this political agenda that keeps sneaking in, and actually get back to focusing on the teaching aspect of what students, they want to learn. They're eager to learn. They want to be challenged. They want to connect with the subject matter.
Time. Thank you. Now the mic will go to Kevin Donovan, please, for the next question. How do you determine budget priorities?
That's a great question, and I think it falls on how I answered the last question. The classroom should be the first priority, period. It's simple. Find the best teachers, hire the best talent. That's where it starts. Then give them the tools and the resources that they need to be successful, whether that's technology, the best textbooks, whatever resources the teachers need to do their job as efficiently and effectively as possible. And then support the students. I'm not a big fan of 30 or 40 kids in the classroom. I don't think that's an effective way for students to learn. I think we should focus on reducing classroom sizes and ensuring that kids can get a more one-on-one attention, especially those that are in need of that extra tutorial after a math class or a science class. So at the end of the day, you focus and prioritize budgeting starting with the classroom first, and then you work your way out to whatever's left over after that.
Thank you. Robert Fritz.
It's still the focus of the classroom. We have a lot of teachers that want to really teach. They have so many other things they have to do besides teach, that all the scores they have to do, the government scores, the extra testing, No Child Left Behind. If we start focusing on the actual education of kids, give them the resources, as everybody's brought up, the money to be able to do that. Also come up with the best way to hire the best teachers, because if Forest Hills is such a good place to come, there's no reason why we can't have the best teachers possible to be able to teach kids what they need to learn. Have a good tutoring program for those who are struggling to bring them up. That's also something that should be in the budget. Forest Hills has a very rich budget. All we have to do is prioritize our budget, find out how to put the budget in place to help increase the education of our students.
Oh, wow.
Thank you. Ryan Streck, please.
I think we'll all agree that, prioritizing the classrooms and the teachers are the priority. But the problem is going to be where do you get that money? Because if you're taking money from one place, you're putting it into the teachers, you're taking it and moving it around. So we're going to have to look at what the programs are and find ways to increase the budgets for the teachers. We're going to have to find ways to get more parents or more adults in the building. The number one concern I hear from teachers in the high school are there's just not enough adults in the high school. We have classrooms, gym teachers, where you've got a male or female at the high school. So if the other locker room has no adults in there, we have no idea what's going on. There's a lot of problems where we just need more adults in the buildings to help the teachers, to give them more resources, and that's where I would prioritize it.
Thank you. And this will go down to Holly DeVore, please. How do you determine budget priorities?
Well, owning my own business, there's a lot of prioritizing that we have to do for different things, and we actually have to take care of it year to year. One of the areas that I've been focusing on, even looking at the budget, is that we have what are called instructional coaches at our school. And from what we've been finding out is this is an instructional coach that used to be a teacher in the classroom, is now being paid to come in and to basically coach a teacher on how to teach in the classroom. So if we need smaller classroom sizes, we don't need instructional coaches. So if it's a combined effort of They're getting paid $100,000 each, and you have 10 of them, there's $1 million right there that we could actually take out of the budget to move around, like O'Brien had just mentioned, like how do we do that? You have to move the money around. Well, why not take them and put them back into the classroom, shrink the classroom sizes, maybe shrink the budget a little bit what they're paying them.
Time. Thank you. Doug Lee, please.
So Forest Hills has a $130 million a year budget. The residents have been extremely generous to pass every millage, every bond that's put forth, because we've always valued education as being a top priority. I go to these school board meetings, they present a budget, they approve a budget. Last month, they approved a $12 million budget for the month of spending on 5 individual line items. I asked them, can you give me the details so I can figure out myself how to deal with the budget? They sent me back a bill telling me that that's going to cost me $240 to get the detail that I should already have in the first place as a resident and taxpayer in this here. They remind me that the least paid person in the administration costs $42.05. There was so $42. We had 636 bus cancellations last year because the bus drivers were paid an average of $15 an hour. So there's an imbalance between what the administration is paid versus the working people within the district.
Thank you very much. This next question will go to Robert Prince, please. Excuse me. Books in our libraries have become an important issue for parents. How should books be vetted for our students?
Yeah, that has been a big issue because I've heard nothing but books. We have parents come up and read some of these things that, I mean, when you hear them, you think there's no way this should be in a school book. I think there's 2 things. I think you should have a good parental group. Say it could be 5 or 7 parents that get together to review those books that are questionable. By doing that, making sure it's an odd amount is that way if you have 2 that says, oh, I don't think there's anything wrong with it, and the other 2 says, I think, then you have somebody that can break the split. They should review the books. That way, if the 3 parents or 4 parents said, hey, the book seems okay, if there's still a question, then they can bring it in front of the board. And that's where the board should be able to make the final decision. It's not banning books, because you can still get the doggone books in the library. It's to make it so any kid can go in the library in our schools and feel secure about the book they pull out. It's not going to be something that is inappropriate.
Hi, thank you. Actually, that'll go Brian.
Our district does have a process to vet the books. You can go and you can request that your child not have books. You can go to the superintendent's office or the administration and say, I'd like this book to be reviewed. To date, no parent has done that process. We keep complaining about books, but why is nobody following the process that's in place? So yes, we should be reviewing the books. The things that are read at those board meetings, they're uncomfortable, but they're out of context, and they are a lot of books.
Excuse me. Thank you. We will allow the candidates to speak, please, without comment from the audience. Thank you very much for being civil and being kind and courteous.
Be careful, boy.
Thank you. Next, this would go down to Holly, please. Holly DeVore, please.
With a lot of the the Board of Education meetings, we've been hearing about these books over and over again. And I guess for me personally is I'd like to know how they got in the first place and what the vetting process is. I have a friend of mine that did a library program through our Forest Hills community, and there was this gold star on the book, a couple of them actually, saying it was highly acclaimed, you know, well read, over 1 million copies sold. Well, from that, she found out that her child was reading pornographic material in a reading program promoted by our community. So where do the books come from, and where does the gold stars and the standards for this kind of, you know, my thought process was to get the books vetted out was to find some retirees that were willing to read, to come in and help us, to better educate all of us, and for our community to try to weed out some of the stuff that's in our system.
Thank you. Candidate Dudley, please.
So Forest Hills Foundation provides a lot of grants to Forest Hills specifically for books. And when that foundation money and grant money, which is in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, originally was set up, there was a vetting process. In other words, they're going to get, there's some just not going to give them a couple $100,000 to get any books. There was a vetting process. We found out through digging in, that vetting process has long disappeared in the district. It's somewhat back, and we've been fighting for some process. We go to these school board meetings, and we continuously expose some of this problem. It's kind of like whack-a-mole. When we deal with this issue, we also have to deal with the issues of personal libraries and the teachers, because they can pull a book, but if the teacher has an agenda where they want to bring their personal belief to their kids, they put them in their personal libraries. There's no process for that. We go to classrooms, and those books will just be gone when someone's there. Or we go to a school board meeting, and then we find the school has been cleansed of some of the activities and signage. It's terrible.
Thank you. Kevin, Donovan, please.
So we're talking about a real slippery slope here. Someone said, how did these books even get here in the first place? Some of them have been around a long time, some of them are new. But how far is this going to end up going? And that's probably my biggest concern around this topic, is if action isn't taken today, we're going to have Playboy magazine in the periodical section of our school libraries. And I don't think that's what anybody wants. So we've got to come up with something. Spring Lake just passed a thing at the board meeting a couple weeks ago that I thought was really interesting, where they said, why don't we make a rating system of these books? I have a daughter who's in a class called History versus Hollywood, where they compare history to Hollywood movies. I had to sign a parental form saying it was okay for her to watch these rated R movies. It was a permission slip. So why can't we do something similar with books? I haven't read all these books. I don't know all the chapters and verses of what's bad or good within them. I do know that pornography is bad. I know it's bad for young children growing up and learning about how sex really doesn't take place. And we've got to be careful about what we do with kids.
Thank you. This next question will go to Brian Spratke, please. Does the board need more financial transparency? And does the board also need to justify how the money is spent?
Well, I mean, we just had the last board meeting where they talked about Forest Hills is one of 15 school districts in the state that is open and transparent and wins the award. So, do I want to get it so that everything can be on the website and see the budgets and stuff like that? Is that necessary? You know, maybe we want to see where they spent the money on the truck last month. But is that really the best use of our district time and resources? We talked about getting money in the schools and the teachers and stuff like that. We're going to have to hire people to do all that stuff. So should there be transparency? Yes, we should be able to find out where that money is going. But at what point do we want it to be? Do we want it to be everything on the website where you can just click and find it? Or do you expect it to be that we're getting audited and that we're doing proper things?
Thank you. Could we take that down to Holly Orr, please?
Yes, absolutely, transparency. I've kind of searched around a couple of websites on different school districts and stuff, and just kind of getting the runaround of trying to actually find different things, and it seems like a maze. It shouldn't be. It's the taxpayers' dollars at work. We absolutely should have that. Every single dime, every single itemized line, no hidden things on it whatsoever. And when people ask us the question, we should be able to answer it. The board that we do right now does not even challenge. It just blindly signs off and says yes to stuff. We should actually be challenging every dime that is being spent on this. So we know the last question that got answered about the budget and stuff, I'm willing and guessing that there's quite a bit of money that is being spent foolishly or unaware to the public of what is going on. And I want to see that change completely, so we're held accountable as stewards of the money. So yes.
Thank you. Candidate Dudley, please.
So specifically, the last board meeting, which was just a couple weeks ago, they passed a $17 million budget for the month on 5 light items this time. The general fund consists of about 90% of that. We never know what that budget exists. We have members that go to the finance meeting, so we've been going to the finance meeting and recording those for almost 15 months. I have never seen, ever, a board member object to anything that's ever been put before them. They will rubber stamp them, they will put them in the consent grouping, they get passed, and it's unanimous. 7 members will say yes with no questions involved. I don't know how you can run a $130 million budget and not have questions or challenge certain items on those line items. We're not privy to those. We don't get those. For us to get the detail, it costs us money out of our own pocketbook. So I think citizens are watchdogs of your community. If the citizens can't have access to the finances and some of the data, how will...
Thank you. This will go to
So when I worked on the Cosmopolitan of Las Vegas, it was a $2.2 billion construction project with another $2 billion of furniture that went into the building. So this is a massive, complex building. Our construction bills every month were more than the annual budget of Forest Hills Public Schools. So I would process and walk the entire building every month and process $100 million pay applications from our general contractor, because I work for the owner. That's a lot of money, and we're a steward of that money. And transparency, there's no limit to transparency. Everything should be transparent. So as Mr. Spracky said earlier, yeah, I think everything should be online. I think if a constituent, a taxpayer, a voter, wants to have access and be able to go sort and see how much money was spent in the cafeteria on cafeteria food, they should be able to do that. Why wouldn't they be able to do that? Because I don't want my time wasted as a board member, a parent, or a constituent coming to the board and taking up meeting time with something they should be able to do online.
Thank you. And Robert, please.
Yeah, I have gone to every finance budget meeting since I started doing that in January. And Doug is correct. I'm watching them. They said, okay, we're going to spend $247,000 for this program. It's going to do this and this and this. Any questions? And the whole board members, they all look around each other. All in favor? So, opposed? Now, one time it was a suggestion about something. Have they ever said, what's the details of that? What does that software program do that we already have paying for now? The other part about it, it's not that tough to put everything online. When I worked for Lazy Boy Management, they're a $1 billion company. All I had to do is go on their site, type in what I'm looking for, and boom, all the prices would come up. You can do that with Excel. Just type in something. There's no reason why we can't have transparency on the budget.
Thank you. I would like to, if you would kindly hand this over to Brian. I have one final question before we go into wrap up, but it's a question that I really would like to hear a response to. Iowa School District. Yes, we would start this one too, and then we'll just finish with Ken DeBoer. Iowa School District recently voted to allow teachers to be armed on school grounds. Would you approve arming Forest Hills teachers? My apologies.
I would not approve arming Forest Hills teachers.
That's a tough subject. I don't think that anybody should know there's a weapon in the school for a teacher. However, I do believe that kids should be, with parental permission, understand what a weapon is. Sign off on permission slips, go to a shooting range with trained instructors to learn what the weapons are, and a teacher should do it as well, just for the knowledge. If we can save one kid from being accidentally shooting themselves, it's well worth it. Teachers should know exactly what it is. It's in our amendment. It's the Second Amendment. There's also in the Michigan Code 380.125 that kids are supposed to be trained. But do I believe we should be open about weapons in school? Absolutely not.
Well, way to close on this question. Thank you for that. But at the end of the day, I think we all want schools to be safe. If schools aren't safe, then our teachers can't do their job effectively, and the students can't excel effectively, right? And that's what we want. So what does safe mean? Well, I don't want our schools to be prisons. That's what they're like in Mexico, if you've ever been there. Okay, you see a school, it's got a 15-foot wall all the way around it, and a guy with a machine gun at the front door, and parents aren't even allowed in. Okay, so I don't think we want that, and I don't think we want open range access of unlocked doors at all the doors either. So the solution falls somewhere in the middle. And as a candidate and as a board member, I'm open to hearing what that discussion looks like, and I want to do what's best to make our schools as safe as possible. Thank you.
So I had watched the video on Dan. Every year the superintendent presents his security, and he hires consultants that come in and, you know, help him define and navigate what a security policy is for Forest Hills. And then somewhere along they're supposed to rehearse this. One of the things the consultant said, there's really no way to plug. If a student wants to bring a gun in, they simply come to a parent-teacher conference, they go to a football game, they bring it in not through the doors during the normal course of business. They configure ways to bring items in. So locked doors, this consultant says, and I tend to agree with them, locked doors can minimize it, but it can't completely eliminate it. So if a kid wants to come to a basketball, football game, which may not have the same security as during school time, and they want to bring a locker or hide a gun somewhere, they certainly can do that in Forest Hills, pretty much any school, no matter how you lock it down. So Kevin's right, you got to figure out the balance of this. But people who, our Second Amendment does allow for the carrying, and there's rigorous training that people can go through to carry concealed weapons.
Our final candidate, Holly DeBoer, please.
Watching this in the news, it was very interesting to see that we have signs up that say gun-free zone, which means there's no guns, so come on in, right? Versus a sign that would say enter at your own risk, you don't know who's packing. So, and I think the thing of it is that when I worked in school, I think there should be one point that come into the school to sign in, to facilitate inside the school. We watch as maybe somebody's left their phone in the car, somebody's left their lunch in the car, and they've snuck out a side door, which is what's happened recently, you know, for what we've heard in the news and stuff. So I think sometimes the verbiage, I don't think any teacher wants to know who's carrying. I don't think any teacher wants to be the person responsible of making sure that the gun is safe, if that's what, you know, we decide to do and stuff. So I think there is some kind of medium in there somewhere that we can kind of figure out, but I think it's all about the signage and the verbiage that, you know, that is gonna, you know, carry it through from there.
Wonderful, thank you very much. I'd like to, since you started with opening statement, if we could, sorry about the mic moving all the time, if we'll start with Brian and he will go ahead and give a 2-minute wrap up. And I do need to just do a disclaimer. I can do Congress, Senate, anybody when it comes to our kids. I'm an emotional slob, so my apologies.
Don't apologize.
All right, when thinking about your vote, think about there being 13 candidates. How many combinations exist to get to 4 board members? Hope every candidate ran with the goal to improve the district, because these 4 board members are going to need to be able to work together and with the 3 standing members and superintendent. Neighboring communities are watching Forest Hills. Every time we use social media to argue, every time we read sexually explicit sections of a book and fight over stolen signs, we are dividing ourselves more instead of bringing the community together. I would rather a community be viewed as leaders, a community that is willing to accept and acknowledge we need to improve, a community that can listen and respect each other throughout the process of improvement. Progress doesn't happen overnight, and our board members need to be willing to work together and not expect issues to be resolved by walking in and demanding immediate change.
To actually be going on the board, it's a situation between parents, teachers, board members to all work together to make the school system better. And I think that's one thing that seems to be the disconnect. It seems like the parents can't get anybody to listen to what they need. The better teachers said, I can't get the administration to listen to what we need. We got so many things going on in the schools that they can't teach like we want them to teach. I think, you know, I think part of it is just basic civics. Learn how to actually handle your own marketing abilities, where you know how to do a checkbook, you know how to balance yourself, you know how to actually work with others. You talk about work and trade. There's all these things we can do in the school system. Do I have all the answers now? No. But one thing I do, I get very much involved like I did with transportation, and I will be very much involved trying to find out how we can improve Forest Hills.
So you've heard it, there's 13 of us. 4 of us get to serve you going forward. And I think we all kind of want the same thing. We want Forest Hills to be on top, and we want what's best for our kids, whether they're your kids, your neighbor's kids, your grandkids. We want our students to excel when they leave Forest Hills. The question that you all get to ask yourselves is, who provides that best path out of the 13 people that you've met and seen throughout this campaign? I've hoped that I've been able to give you some insight into me as a person, both professionally, and with my family a little bit. And I hope that you see how I will lead. Transparency is number 1, and followed very closely by integrity. You come to a board meeting, you'll be treated with respect, and hopefully get the answers that you're looking for, is the goal. So at the end of the day, I'm Kevin Donovan, and I'm running to serve for the Board of Education for Forest Hills Public Schools, and I look forward to receiving every one of your votes. Thank you.
When we started this venture a year and a half ago, we tried to work with the board, and we worked with the board. Then we went to a recall to try to recall boards, to try to put people in the board that are responsible and will listen to parents. We decided a long time ago that we need to get control of the board. There's 7 members on the board. 4 people can control the destiny and the direction of Forest Hills. We all put education and parents in control as a top priority within. There's 4 of us here, Robert, Kevin, me, and Holly, and we are running as a slate so that people know who the conservative candidates are for Forest Hills. I'm a Christian, but I'm not advocating that we bring religion into school.
The conservatives are you are part of.
Stop, please. No comment from the audience.
I want to bring
please.
neutrality to school. What parents do in their home and their kids, that's between them kids. Our public education is for educating. And that's one of the things that we have. We may be different on different opinions, but we agree on the rigor of education.
Thank you.
When I started this journey, I've always had a passion for kids and watching kids succeed and strive, and being Miss Holly on the playground, or Coach Holly in soccer, or on the cheer team. I've always wanted to come alongside and make sure kids were able to achieve the very best at a time when I know, even in my own life, as a student and stuff, that that's what came alongside of me. You know, for my home life and what I grew up with and stuff, my teachers, staff members at school, those were my lifeline. That was 7-8 hours a day. Those are the people that I leaned on. And I never realized what a Board of Education was capable or had the power of doing until I got to see what was going on this year. And to know that we have a chance this year, this crucial year of getting on and turning the boat around from what we've been seeing and what we've been experiencing as a community together over the last almost 3 years, we have the power to change that. So I would just ask that you, as you're going voting to the polls and stuff, that you would just look at what is it that the direction even your just community needs to turn around and do, and that we're seeing the flavor of it even in the national news right now. So I'm Holly DeBoer, and I'm running for Board of Education for Forest Hills Public Schools.
Would you please join me in appreciating our candidates? It's not easy to subject yourself to other people's thoughts or disapproval or rejection, so I appreciate all of you to be willing to be here in person. Thank you for attending tonight. We are realizing more and more that the Board of Education is a vital role in this community, and so I appreciate your concern for it, and thank you for participating, and I'd like to turn it back over to Stephanie, please.
Just briefly, on behalf of Forest Hills for Just Education, we want to thank you for being here, taking time out of your day thank you so much to our candidates for taking time out of your pre-election season here. We know this is a lot for you to be here and do this, be under the spotlight. And most importantly would be to reach out to your neighbors, your family, your friends. Set the example for your new voters. If you've got 18-year-olds and they're the first-time voter, get them out there November 8th and do your civic responsibility to get out there and vote. You've done your research. You know, you can share that information, share that with your friends, let them know how to get information about the candidates. Hopefully this was helpful for everyone. And again, thank you for being here. Thank you so much, Kathy. And Ron, the timekeeper, we appreciate you. And have a great night. Get home safely. Thank you.